Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be looking at the Melanie Gibb police interview that was conducted on April 30th, 2021. Again, this is in the Lori Vallow Chad Daybell case, and Melanie Gibb was one of the best friends of Lori Vallow. This video that I'm going to be playing for you, I have edited and cherry picked it and cut it up because it's over an hour long. I'm just going to give you the high points of the interview in my opinion and give you some of my thoughts on it. And just to give you the standard caveat that these are just my opinions, opinions are not facts, and the viewers are always encouraged to do their own research to best form their own opinions. This full interview is available on the Fox 10 Phoenix YouTube channel. So let's get into it. Right out of the gate, Melanie Gibb tells the officer she doesn't understand why people gossip about the players in this case, which I found really hypocritical because these people, according to their seemingly her own statement, were doing castings on unsuspecting people because they thought they had demons in them. Hypocrite much.
And I was
It's crazy. It's crazy.
People, you guys are like,
Melanie,
why do you spend your life looking at another person and gossiping about them? That is so bad.
She goes on to talk about her husband now, David Warwick, and his availability to speak with officers again, to be a witness. And she says this.
I don't think we need to talk to him.
Yeah, he's like, I'll do what I can, but I don't really think I'm that useful. But he is a little bit.
He's useful.
He is useful because he's another witness.
Of course he's a useful witness in this case, Melanie. Of course he is. David Warwick was allegedly there with Melanie Gibb at Lori's apartment on the weekend that JJ was murdered, so you would think that would make him a useful witness. Here's where the police start to get a little serious to try to determine what, if anything, she might be holding back on them.
Unless they ask me a direct question about it.
Okay.
You know, we don't want to have to be pulling
Yeah.
information out of you.
Okay.
Just be an open book and tell us.
Absolutely.
And it'll make this a whole lot faster.
Yeah.
So.
Here he's going to try to nail her down about these castings that they allegedly did on people.
I want to talk to you a little bit about these castings.
Uh-huh.
Is that what you referred to them as? Or are you new to them?
Yeah, I think so.
What else were they referred to as?
To me, these castings sound like exorcisms done on a subject at a distance. It's very odd.
So you know the idea of casting out is to help evil spirits leave the body, right? That's the whole premise from Christ.
Well, I've never heard of it being, well, okay, so I know that
let's go back
Christ
to
is
Christ.
casting out demons, and
Yeah.
I understand that.
That's the premise, that's all. That's all it is. I mean, that's what the idea is to get, if there is an evil spirit in you, then you ask in the name of Christ that evil spirit leave. That's what it's about.
Mind you, these subjects did not ask for anybody's help.
So sometimes in my mind, I'm having a little trouble trying to picture this.
Okay.
But like, if I look at this, I'm like, such and such has a evil spirit in them.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I would call a group together to have a prayer and a casting.
Yeah.
Or if I would just, you know, in my own personal prayer say, Lord, will you help this person out?
Right. I don't agree with it. But I want you to know that's what the idea. Anything I tell you, I don't agree with.
So she doesn't believe any of it.
How it started was this. We were in Sulima's house, probably in January. So there was Christina and Nicole, and Serena was there, I was there, Sulima was there, and Lori was there. And maybe Sulima's daughter might have been in the house, but I don't remember. And so she was talking to everybody about that Charles had this evil spirit in him, okay? So that was kind of what they were talking about.
Okay, tell me about that evil spirit. Did the evil spirit have a name?
Yeah, remember we talked about it. It's the Ned guy.
Right.
That's what they said he was. He was this Ned person, okay?
She mentions a bunch of women we know nothing about.
She's kind of talking to the girls, and they're all kind of talking about what's going on. And she's like, I don't know what we're supposed to do about this. How do we get, how do I do this. I don't understand what this. So nobody has any information about casting out at this point.
All of this stuff reminds me of like Dungeons and Dragons back in the old days, like where you'd have a dungeon master and then you'd start playing games. This is honestly ridiculous.
I don't know how they start talking about, but somehow they start talking about casting out somehow. And then they all start joining in. I was listening because I didn't have any comment to make to it. I was like, I don't know.
So she's just going along with these shenanigans?
They were trying to figure out, she was trying to help solve the problem. Like, if this Ned is in him, how do we get him out? Or, I don't even know if that was the right word at the time, get him out. But,
Can I stop real quick?
yeah.
Remind me how she knew that was Ned.
Okay, that was, remember when Chad made the phone call? Lori and I were in her house, one of her houses she lived in.
Here's where Melanie pins the idea on Chad.
Because I remember where I was at certain times, so I remember the house. Anyway, so I remember she was coming in the door. It seemed like we just did a podcast with a couple of men. So we just did that podcast. They left. And Chad calls and says, hey, I want to let you know that I did some research and figured out that this Ned... So Ned Schneider, thank you. And Ned Schneider is in him. And she was taken back a little bit because it was a new concept for her. She didn't know about that this could happen. So this was introduced from Chad. Absolutely 100% sure of that. Okay. So then she was ruminating over that idea for a while. They were talking.
So Chad allegedly tells Lori over the phone.
Because I'm watching them talk on the phone, and after that conversation, she shares with me, this is what Chad just shared with me.
All right.
And so she didn't look like she made it up because she had never talked that way before. She never said anything like, hey, there's an evil spirit, and that never occurred to her. So when she first told me, I could tell she was like trying to absorb it. It looked like it was new for her. That's where it came from. And so I'm sure they had a lot of conversations, which I wasn't privy to. So then when she came together in January with all these girls, she was talking about this problem she had about this Ned person now coming in. And she said that her reasoning for that was that Satan was breaking eternal law, and that he could now do this, like he had some kind of power to do this. And so now these evil spirits were able to get into these bodies. So if we use you as an example, Ron is no longer Ron, he's, Phil. When Phil comes in, he is
right.
Now, I'm really dealing with Phil. I'm not really dealing with Ron anymore.
Because Ron's gone.
Ron's gone. He went to the spirit world or whatever.
In my opinion, this is how the depersonalization of the victims come in, because they're not dealing with the victim or the subject, they're dealing with a demon.
And a lot of the wording that they use, which I can't recall all of it, but it had to do with features that they learned from energy work. Different weapons and different stones or different things that they had learned through a spiritual means, talking about, hey, and they came up with this stuff. I did not come up with it because I didn't know.
Did they come up with it, or did Lori assign them something?
No, at first they talked about it as a group. They were like, well, what can we do? And it seemed like Christina started bringing it out first, actually. She's the one that, and I'm trying to remember the words, but I can't really remember what she said. I just remember, she's like, I remember her sitting down with her one day and go, what can we do to help you, Lori?
So Chad tells Lori there's an evil spirit in her husband, and they're all sitting around trying to figure out what to do.
She was told that she had this priesthood power. Now that Moroni gave it to her in the temple, she suddenly had this priesthood power.
Right.
That women were now getting it, because you know that they don't have it in church, right?
Do you find that odd?
Yeah, everything's odd. But at the same time, because I was on this, so I had listened to some podcasts she had learned. So it wasn't super odd for a person that had listened to Julie Rowe or Mike Stroud, because they were talking about how to, now if you go back and listen to those two, she doesn't come up with this stuff herself. This has been coming up by other people, okay?
She's saying these podcasts made a jumping off point for these other wacky beliefs.
Well, let me back up to when I first met her to help you understand how I got involved with her. Jason Mau's the one that introduced me to her. So she meets me and she hears me talking a little bit because I'm doing something for a steak event. Anyway, afterwards, she's in the back with Melanie. Then I came out, and then she came out, and Melanie was still in there because there was other classes going on. And she was just so excited to meet me. she's talking about people she knew, like Mike Stroud, or not knew, but knew of from podcasts, and Julie Rowe, and her change of heart. And I said, well, I've been changed to Christ, and my experience is a normal experience that somebody would have, but she was like mirroring me, and I was like, I think she's mirroring me. But anyway, she was like, oh, I've been changed by Christ. And I said, well, I have too. And then she said, well, I said, you must have been through a really, a lot of challenges in your life to be able to have these experiences. She goes, well, she says, I've had some special experiences with the Lord in the temple. She was bringing the story about all her trials, and they sounded genuine to me. I did not think she would. I don't think people are manipulating. That's one of my weaknesses. I don't manipulate. I don't know how to.
I respectfully disagree, in my opinion.
So then she tells me, well, because we had listened to Mike Stroud, he talked about 144,000 and about how people are going to be called to help be instruments in God's hands of bringing people together, like the lost tribes and different things in the last days. And so she says, well, I've had these experiences, and I know that I'm part of the 144,000. The Lord sealed me his in the temple kind of thing.
So she's talked about Lori allegedly having priesthood power, and she's now talking about the 144,000 and how she got involved.
But anyway, she learned a lot about, and Julie Rowe, they talked about casting out. They talked about when evil spirits, you put your arm to the square, you cast out, you use, and then talked about love is your most powerful weapon, and different weapons. He would say different weapons. I don't know if he described them. So when her and I met that day, she's like, I know that Moroni, she must have told me about Moroni, or he was the Savior. I know that he's called me to be part of that 144,000 to help other women. I'm to gather other women, something like that.
This is a part where she uses a hot flash as confirmation of truth.
So her and I go to the temple. So we're going in there. This is, if you're LDS, you're going to be surprised by this. This is where the deception really began. I go into the temple, and I'm going in the dressing room. We're getting our white clothes on, and she is in the dressing stall. And I come out and I stand behind. They have an arch window in the Phoenix Temple, right in the women's room. And I'm standing there, and all of a sudden I get this like heat all over my head, and I'm like,
"That's a hot flash."
So I said, Lori, and she comes out. I said, feel my head, and she goes, oh, it's happening. And she's like, wow, it's happening. I'm thinking, wow, that's pretty awesome. I'm thinking that's good. And so anyway, we go into a couple of different rooms. I don't want to share too much because it's the temple. Right. But anyway, she thinks that she has the power to ordain me at that point to be part of this 144,000. Yeah, from the Lord himself and from Moroni herself in the temple, in the initiatories, in a certain location in the initiatories. And the interesting thing, I told this to Rob, the same place that Sulema said she saw the Lord was the same place he said. And I was like, how did that happen where she said the same place?
Maybe Melanie, because they made it up?
Yeah. So that was a bit on the odd side, that happened to me in the temple. And I've asked other people that work in the temple and different things. They said, well, they can bring Satan in with them. I'm like,
pretty sure Satan doesn't go into the churches and temples.
So that's where my confidence came from with her, because I'm in the temple of my God. That happens to me.
He asked her about the castings, and we've gotten this far afield.
With these castings, and the first one you're involved in was at Zelina's house.
They're looking to see her complicity in doing these castings and this participation. That's my opinion why they're probing this.
For sure.
And was that just for Charles?
Oh, absolutely, because that's the only person they knew had that issue at the time, according to their pretend revelation. How they did it?
How they did it.
Okay, so they were trying to figure out first how to do it, and so they were all coming up with different ideas, and I wasn't familiar with their vernacular. They would say things like, like Melanie would coin the phrase, probably like some kind of malachite or something after a while. Like malachite's a gem. Mm-hmm. So they thought that gem had power. So you know how like in the chakra world people get into stones and stuff like that? They kind of brought that into that. So they thought that had the power. And then
those malachite rings or the malachite stone?
Well, she eventually got that, yeah, but that was okay. Right. Like the malachite stone.
So she seems to be saying that Melanie Boudreaux Pulowski brought in the concept of the malachite, and that came from energy healing or energy work.
And so anyway, they would just basically, she would raise her arm to the square, Lori would, And then she would say through her priesthood power, which she believed she had the patriarchal power, which was higher than the Melchizedek power, okay? Sorry if this is confusing. I don't know if you're thinking.
I'm following you.
He's following you.
So, and be patient. And Chad would help groom her into these beliefs and ideas. He would help her believe more and more, like, you're the most powerful woman in the world, right?
She's saying that Chad offered Lori equal priesthood power, and that was maybe the draw.
They would just, each one of them had like a little something to say, like how they could help come to the light, or, you know, something like that. And so the only part I pitched in was my testimony of Jesus Christ. And so anyway, that's just how she did it. And so she would, and I think she kind of did it more on her own as she got more closer to Chad, and everybody's kind of started leaving the group, you know, like Nicole and what's her name, Christina were out.
Mm-hmm.
And then Serena was out early. Thank goodness on their part they were out early. And it's only because Lori was getting jealous, or you know how the jealousy can get in, and she was worried because Serena called Chad too much, and then she was like, Chad was like, well, she has more intentions than this, and then they cut her out of the group. Just stupid stuff like
So
that.
you think that they cut Serena out of the group because Lori was jealous?
So Melanie's saying that she thought that Lori got jealous of these other women, and eventually these other women, Nicole, Christina, and Serena, left the group. And in a conspiracy, you can leave a conspiracy. So
She went out of the country and came back. She got sick, and she was asking, like, what happened? Was some evil spirit touched me when I was there? And Serena had a hard time swallowing all this. After I came to her and said, these people are bad, she was like, you mean they lied about that and that? I'm like, Serena. And I had told her the whole story, everything that they killed the kids, and I really felt they did. And she was like, and we went to the temple, and she's like, Melanie, did they lie about this? I'm like, Serena, the whole thing is a lie.
I'm not sure the date that Mel saying she told Serena they killed the kids, but if so, could be an outcry witness for Melanie Gibb.
But she was just sucked into it. And so, and it had a lot to do with the preparation work, had a lot to do with learning things outside of Chad and Lori before we even got together, like, you know, the podcast people. And that prepared Lori to meet Chad. I remember hearing that recording about.
What Melanie seems to be saying here is because of the End Times podcast and the prep work, those concepts allegedly laid the foundation for these defendants, or at least for Lori, to believe a person like Chad. Okay, that's kind of what she's getting at here, I think.
She said, I believe she learned those teachings from this podcaster, and then when she met Chad, and it was an easy, oh yeah, I'm already prepared kind of thing. So that first day that they met, she was already prepared for Chad because of these podcasts.
Melanie Gibb doesn't seem to like Julie Rowe very much, so she gets her swipes in.
They worked together quite a bit, and that's where he learned a lot of his energy work from, I believe. That's because I don't know that he knew about it until Julie Rowe, because Julie Rowe's the one that brought this whole emotion code and energy work and all that. She's the one that really opened that up. And then he switched from being with that one lady, Suzanne Freeman, and then he dumped her. I call it dump because he just kind of moved from one person to the other. And they went to Julie Rowe, and then he dumped Julie Rowe, and then he went to Lori. So he kind of kept doing this. Probably for money, you know, he's really into his books, so he wanted to make money. And
so she's essentially saying that Chad is kind of old hat at this, glomming onto women.
so this is what the castings really were about, is to invite the spirits to leave.
It sounds to me like exorcism from a distance, if that's a thing.
When Julie Clement got involved, I remember one night we were at Lori's, the last house she was in before Charles died. I think he was still alive. And I remember they were doing a prayer, and Julie Clement and Sulema with their, I don't know, energy, they both do energy work. They're saying, she's like, I saw this dragon, something like this, and I know Sulema said she saw that later, and I didn't see anything, so. That's just what they imagined in their, I don't know, this, you know, some evil spirit tricking them, something.
How many castings do you think that you were involved in?
So he wants to ascertain how many times she's participated in these events. And she has to guess.
10? Maybe? I'm not sure.
I
I think most of them were on Charles, and not the kids. And Tammy, I mean, I know they probably did. I don't know what they did with the kids. I don't have any idea on that part. They probably, I'm not sure on Tammy. Maybe?
Let me ask you about Tammy then.
Yeah.
Was Chad there, or was it just Lori?
Yeah, it's really important for them to nail her down about whether Chad is also there at these events. In a conspiracy, he wouldn't have to be there, but it would show more participation and more intent.
And I know I'm asking a lot for try to reach back and grab.
Yeah, so we were in a circle, we were holding hands, and Charles had passed away, so it had to have been somebody else because Charles was dead. And Sulema, she started talking about that. She was into, moving the earth and the earthquakes and all that. You probably know that.
So Chad was there in the circle.
Oh, yeah.
Lori was there.
Yep. And I think Melanie and Alex, Sulema, me and David. David doesn't remember any of it. You can ask him. He's blocked it, dude. He was so blocked. He can't remember it.
And this was after Charles died.
This was right after he died when we had that little meeting. Remember how I said we got together one time in Charles's house?
After Charles's death.
Like July,
July,
probably.
probably.
Yeah. But he died July
11th.
11th, 7. I always try to remember 7/11. Okay. So, yeah. Yeah.
You recall how soon after that was?
Weeks. Within weeks.
Do you think it's still in July?
So after Charles's death, they're doing these castings on some other people.
But this casting was for what reason?
To continue to help the spirits that are in the bodies to talk them out of leaving their bodies.
Okay. What bodies?
I think it could have been Tammy. It might have been Brandon.
Her memory's real foggy, but she thinks Brandon and Tammy.
And definitely, well, because not JJ, definitely, because JJ wasn't deemed a zombie until, September, right?
Okay.
So they would definitely not have done it about JJ. So probably Tammy and Brandon, because they said Brandon was definitely in this high level, dark.
I don't want you, I appreciate you saying it was probably
Yeah.
either one of these two or maybe both, but
Yeah.
I need you to remember who was who was trying to be casted. If it was both, fine, but if it was just one.
I know, it's,
think about it.
I can't even remember what Chad and Lori said.
Okay.
I remember she always used her priesthood power, and then she was like, go ahead, take it over, Zulema. I remember that.
Here I believe he's trying to get her specifics regarding the defendants and their possible premeditation, their premeditated acts.
So as far as the castings, none of them took place in Idaho that you were present at?
Not that I can recall.
Okay.
And I'm doing my best to remember,
I know.
but it's horrifying to think about it, but I don't know.
Okay. So the ones you may have been involved in were the ones here in Arizona, and that would have been at Lori's house,
Yeah.
Zulima's house.
Mm-hmm.
Where else?
I remember when she was in Charles's house, in the one in Houston, or was it Houston or no, the other city? I always forget what city it was. Remember she lived in Florida
Texas?
and Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that? I remember she was. I can't remember if I was. It seemed like she was doing the phone with Chad. I remember her talking about Charles because he was in the house. She was really. That's right. She was really into Charles's. She kept saying, "Oh, he's getting broken down. He's getting broken down. He's getting weaker. He's getting weaker. We're doing things to help, get him weaker, get his, spirit out of his body, kind of a thing." They were like working on him. I remember that a lot.
That's evil.
Were there any castings that you weren't present? You were just on the phone with them.
So there was, in the beginning, there was a phone call. That's right. Good. Thank you for reminding me.
Here she talks about how they did some castings over Zoom even. Not even being together, holding hands in a circle. They were doing it over Zoom.
So yes, there was this phone thing because she was doing it through Zoom. It was a Zoom thing. And so they were like everybody had their own little parts. Like I just did like mine, I just talked about Jesus, right?
Mm-hmm.
But one was over fire elements or something, wind, fire. So yeah, they did that a few times on the phone. And then she just kind of, Dolores just kind of got tired of doing it with them. She was like, oh, this person talks too much. She'd get irritated with people. Like, I think she was always jealous anyway. And I don't know how many times, but I'd say a handful. Maybe they tried it maybe 2 or 3 times, maybe. One time, okay, so you know the house she moved in the first time, Alex's house, right after she left Charles the first time?
Mm-hmm.
She went to Alex's house for a while. She had Serena on the phone, and Melanie was new to it, and she really didn't know what was going on. So it was the first time Melanie was exposed to it. And I remember we were holding hands, and I remember she said, my hands got really hot and they got really cold. I was like, okay, not my experience, right? And then Serena kind of related to that. They were talking on the phone. And that was the night she came up with this idea, this map thing of zombies in the world.
So this is like a zombie census.
She's like, okay, Chad says, and she'd be on the phone, how many zombies in this state?
She called him by name, Chad.
I knew she was talking to him.
How'd you know he was talking to him?
Oh, I just did. I just did. I mean, I just did. I don't know. I knew
She
it.
called him by name?
I'm sure she did, but
Okay.
I just know she was talking to him. Who else was she going to get this information from?
Here she's insisting that Chad essentially was on the other line of the phone giving the information and the numbers on the zombie census. Instead of just saying by deduction that she knew that was him, she just gets excited and giggles and kind of hollers.
Who else is she going to call? She doesn't know anybody that talks like Chad. She didn't know anybody. She wasn't friends with these podcasters. She didn't even know Julie Rowe. She never met her.
Okay.
So, anyway, and I could have maybe possibly heard his voice if she had a speaker sometime. I'm sure that happened at times. So I knew it was them talking. And I probably, she was on the phone a lot, in the car a lot. She was talking to him, and I just knew she was talking to him. And so, anyway, he would say, okay, there's, I don't know, grab a number, 100 in this state, something in this state, and then throughout the whole world. And so he got this, like, these people, or these entities are in other people's bodies. So her idea was, it was for her to get rid of the zombies. The idea was for her thought she had the power to cast out, she'd say in the name of whatever, and with her power. And then he would check, oh, there's none left in the state. Anyway, they all said their little, whatever they could come up with, they think of that would help encourage this spirit to leave, or encourage them. And it wasn't done it didn't seem like it was done out of any unkindness or anything like that. It was just a matter of, like, if you were to invite somebody to leave. I think they started using different weapons that had light in them to help that encourage that spirit to come out of the body by those words. But it had no power. So I haven't worried about it since I've left Lori. I was like, she didn't have any power. She can't hurt me. I'm not worried about her.
So she just tells these officers that she was not scared of Lori. And when she left, she was not afraid.
Is there something you're kind of looking at that might help you?
Well, I really want to just dive into these.
Yeah,
these
to kind of understand them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just dark spirit in a body.
Yeah.
I mean, a dark spirit.
Yeah.
And that body, or excuse me, that spirit is cast out of that body. What enters that body next? Can it be a light spirit or can it be a dark spirit?
Oh, so that did occur with Charles, they said. So, okay, this was the first thing, is they were trying to cast out normal, like casting out, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they said, oh, no, it's still in there. Chad would deem it still in there. We can't get him out. They're breaking eternal law, right? This is what we're saying.
Okay.
They cast his personal spirit out and then put a new one in. So then they finally said, we got him out finally. Through our priesthood powers, we got him out. Now, who's the next one? Garrett? Garrett was the next one that came into Charles. And this was supposed to be a more advanced, darker spirit.
Cast one out, here comes another dark spirit in him.
If the body keeps receiving dark spirit,
Yeah.
Does that body have to be destroyed?
Oh, no, see, they were learning. It was a never figured out. This was Chad pretending more and more along the way, is my opinion now. It's like, he was just like, okay, that didn't work, but what can I come up with to keep Lori happy, right? And let me just figure this out and come up with, I don't know if he even played all the way through, because Lori was so pushy about being with him, and I think he was so infatuated, which you and I both know he was with her. I think he just got more creative in his darkness.
This is like Dungeons and Dragons meets The Exorcist. These people just needed to get divorced, in my opinion.
With these castings, we know that, or I think we know, it was with Charles. They tried casting Charles.
Yeah,
They, at one point, tried casting Brandon.
I think so. It feels familiar, I'll just say that. Because they deemed him as really dark after, right about the time probably either right after Charles died, because then they were trying to help Melanie, because now she would go now hooks into Melanie. She got totally taken out by Lori. And Brandon is all these things, and he's now, not only is he dark, he's actually, we found out more about him. So first he's this. Oh, wait, we discovered more about him. Now now we know he's actually a high level. He's like up there with Hitler kind of thing, right?
Right.
He was one of the Hitler crowd. He was one of the group that associated with Hitler. Mm-hmm.
Was he?
It is so good that Brandon Boudreaux got away because they were likening the spirit in him to a Hitler henchman.
Oh, so Tammy was, let's see, that's a good one, because that one's different. Because she was sweet, right?
Mm-hmm. Well,
That's a good thing. Thank you, because I got to route it around. Tammy, what would they have said about her? Because she didn't have an evil spirit in her. So then at the very end, she did. Because it was, she probably only told me like once, so it's not like there was a lot of time spent on Tammy, to my knowledge. I remember she said right in September, there's evil spirits starting to work on Tammy now. Tammy's good, but they're not in her yet. They're like working on her. And they're coming around the house, something like that, and then she had this knock at the door one night, and Tammy wakes up to go see us, and of course Chad and Lori would say, that was Julie Rose's spirit that came and knocked on the door. I don't blame you. That's why I keep saying, call me. If you have like a brain cramp, Melanie can help me sort me out, because I can at least I got my memory.
Yeah, that's why we're here.
I know, but I was just saying, when you're going through stuff and you're going through all this stuff, you need to keep it collective. Ask me, because I'm going to tell the truth. Nobody's going to tell it like me.
All right. So tell me again about the knocking on the door.
So something about one night there was this is what Chad would tell Lori, that Tammy woke up to a knock at the door, and then he would say, maybe to Julie, I don't know, to his wife, I don't know, but she told me that he said it was Julie's spirit knocking at the door. That's what woke her up. So that was one indication. She just said, I felt this feeling of like they were kind of like around her house, these evil spirits. That's what it felt like when she was telling me. That these evil spirits are now trying to get a hold of her. And then she says, she's starting to question if he's seeing somebody else.
Or Tammy.
Tammy was. That's what she
right.
would tell. So that's how they knew the evil spirits were in her, is because now she was starting to, and I don't remember what she said, something like, are you seeing another woman? Something maybe like that.
Do you know when that was?
Yeah, that was that time we went, September, that weekend I was up there. She would tell me that while I was in her apartment.
Lori told you that.
Yeah, and that was when she was telling that JJ.
I think we did.
She just shared here that weekend in September that she was at Lori's, that Lori told Melanie here that Tammy was suspicious that Chad was having an affair. She's saying essentially that this is why Tammy was deemed to be dark, because she started questioning Chad and his faithfulness.
Let's go back to the castings, because we're kind of getting just sidetracked just a little bit.
Okay.
So back to the castings. You participated in about 10 of them, and then some over the phone, roughly.
Something like that. They were mostly on Charles, if I can remember, if not all of them. There might have been a few that weren't, but it felt like they were, if not all, Charles.
And Lori would start it, and you would go around the room.
She'll always.
You'd go around the room, and each person would say something.
Have something to say.
Describe to me, let's say we're in the casting, what would you say?
I would say, so they would always refer to the evil spirit. So if it was Ned, they'd say.
All by name.
And I can't remember if I said Ned's name or not. I don't know. But anyway, I just say, Jesus Christ is your Savior. Come to Him, and remember that you can always repent and come to Him. So it was my testimony of the repentance and the power of the Savior. That was what I'd say. So I'd say, just like I'd refer to Paul the Apostle, that he went through hard time and he came to the Lord and he was able to be forgiven. And that you can come to the light side. It was all done with love. To me, I felt the love when I said it. I wasn't doing it in a way that I was angry or upset or any negative. Like, I like Charles, so it wasn't like I was against anybody.
On the police interrogation footage, it doesn't seem like she was overly fond of Charles.
Gosh.
So what was your gift that brought you into that circle? What was your gift?
Guys, I did laugh because he asked her what her gift was, and then the cuckoo, the cuckoo ringtone went off, which was funny.
Gosh.
So what was your gift that brought you into that circle? What was your gift?
So Lemma seemed to be the one that had the gift of moving the earth, because she seemed to the visionary stuff she could see. So she was the only one that I knew of that had that kind of gift.
Do you remember Lori giving anybody assignments? Okay, you be water, you be fire.
Yeah, a little bit as she started to learn it more. But that probably backed off after a while because she stopped. You know, like I said, she got rid of some people in the group. So then it kind of just branched off to her and Lori would do a lot of it on their own in the temple. And I'd come and see them in the temple later. I was like, hey, what's going on? And she's like, oh, we just were talking about how to, do this and da-da-da-da.
Zulema and Lori?
What?
Who? Lori and who?
Zulema. Somebody would do something about water and
So,
crystals or whatever. And I'm trying to remember Nicole and Christina. Like, what would
well,
they
that's
have
okay.
said?
That's okay.
I don't really remember.
So you guys go around the circle. Each person says their part, right?
Yeah.
And then it comes back to Lori.
Most likely.
And how does Lori close it? Like, how do you guys get done with the casting?
She would invite the spirit to come out of the body. And I think a few times, if I remember now, it's so long since I thought about this, Sulema, they would try to, is the right word, seal it up or something like that?
This made me think of voodoo, like sealing a spirit in a glass jar.
Like try to seal it where they could, that light energy that was going into them that would cause that evil spirit go, okay, I'm going to leave now. So they were trying to invite it to leave now.
The police must have some recovered text messages that they have under their belts, and they're trying to get Melanie to admit she believed in this stuff.
And that's something you believed in at the time.
I kind of believed in it. I didn't 100%. It's hard to 100% believe in anything that's not true. So at the time, I thought, well, I don't know if this is effective or not, but it seems that's the direction she's going because she doesn't know what to do about this evil spirit in the body. I don't know if it's working or not because she's saying one time it's here and then I said, Chad, say all the body left. So when the first entity first left, Ned, it got really weird after that, actually. She called Chad. She's like, did we get the body? We had a prayer. Did we get the spirit out? Because he would be the one that deemed it. And he'd say, yes, it left. And then, well, where is it? And then, what is his body dead? Because they thought maybe his body would drop dead, which never happened. So she thought that Charles was dead.
She said that Lori thought that after this would happen, that the subject would drop dead. But when the subject didn't drop dead, Chad had to come up with some answer.
Then he said, so he kept changing things, the story all the time. And then he would say, oh no, that's not really what, because, she obviously found out Charles was alive. Oh, that's not what happened. It was Brandon's father's body that died or something stupid like that. He would always try to put it off, like find an excuse why it didn't work. So when, that first time she said that Charles was going to get in the car accident and die, that January, because I remember it was right around my birthday, and then, because it was right after Christmas, and then I said, well, why didn't he die? And then Charles's excuse, which was always Julie Rose's excuse that I heard, was, oh, because of agency, it didn't happen. These people didn't meet up with the right plan, and it didn't go according to plan, so it just failed it. So Chad, that would always be excuse for why things didn't go. He just would lead her along to one, and they thought they were always discovering things, and the adversary was getting smarter and smarter, and they were just leading, and it just got stupider and stupider, the story did. And
I agree with her here. It is absolutely insane at this point.
No, let's back up. So Tylee was deemed dark back in July.
she
Did
was
you guys
deemed
ever
dark at some point.
Cast for Tylee.
I do not recall that,
Okay.
but I know at some point she was called dark, and
Who called that?
well, probably Chad would tell her, because Chad was the one she would go to. And I remember I said this out loud to you guys, is she used to think she got a lot of revelation, but now that Chad's in her life, she just relies upon him more. So she kind of didn't think she had the power anymore because he seemed to have more power than her.
Do you know at that point in time if there was any tension between Lori and Tylee?
There was always tension.
Was there?
When was there wasn't tension? I mean, it was from day one that I met her. I walk in the room. I super good with teenagers. Love them. Hi. She's like, if we were each other, I was like, hi, and She didn't even want to look at me. And she was probably thinking one of her friends that she just totally dumps me on. Who knows? But she would never contact me. I did one time try to be affectionate and kind to her. And we were sitting at the table going to California with her friend.
It's clear that there was no love lost between Melanie Gibb and Tylee Ryan.
Schlotsky's?
Yes, I don't even know how to say it. We were there. She said it was one of her favorite places.
I like food.
Yeah. See, she said she was big on food. You know, she loved her fast food. If you didn't know that, she did. And so we were sitting there, and I just, just like try to put like Tylee's hair. Women just do that kind of stuff. And I just pulled her hair off, and she was like, you know what I mean? I was like, and I didn't take it personally. I knew her mom was her mom. Like, she had a rough life. I was like, whatever. And I think it upset Lori. That kind of upset her. I was like, you don't need to be upset. But anyway.
But it's super important that if you did buy into it, you let us know. Because we've recovered text messages and conversations between you and Lori.
Sure.
Or you and Zulema and
Yeah.
things like that. So there's some things where it shows that you actually believe that Charles was a zombie.
Well, like I said, to a certain level, I believe it, just like Sulema. But remember me asking her the last time I saw them, I said to him directly, it's like, and this was just to show you where my beliefs were, and Sulema's. I said, I'm not 100%. Now, here we're not influenced by Chad and Lori because they're not in the room. This is us three now, alone, without
You,
their
Zulema?
influence. And Alex.
And Alex.
So here we're in Sulema's home, and I remember he's sitting right by the door, and she's in the kitchen, and I'm right here. And I go, 100% of the zombie thing, I'm still not 100%. Okay? So that's what I said. So he goes, 100%. And then she goes, I'm still getting my answers on that. But now, to me, if she said that, that means she didn't know that they died, or they were, whatever, they're missing or whatever. I don't think she was privy to that because of her comment there. She didn't seem like she knew what was going on to me.
But this was after that they had moved to Rexburg.
This was like a few weeks before he died, so this was what?
Charles.
No, Alex. This is right before
yeah.
Alex died.
Yeah, so this is
The
after
last
they
time
moved to
I seen him.
Rexburg, they came back.
Yeah, this is after they went to Rexburg, and they already were married. They just got married. So when I say, yeah, I went along with the text because I was trying to believe in it, and I was trying to, but there was always that little part of me that was like, you're going to have that. You're going to have that doubt until you ever had doubts about something, but you go along with it for a while because you kind of, and then you're like, But the 100% was never there, even though it made it sound like it. Even Lori doubted it. Because she made a few comments, and I remember her seemed like she could have been in the last house she lived in when Charles died in. If he's a Satan, he's a good one.
This time that you were with Alex, Zulema, and you, where was that at?
That was at Sulema's house.
And did you have a conversation at that time with Lori and Chad?
They weren't in the room. When was the last time I talked to them? Well, remember I was already coming down.
I thought you said that you talked, or you just got to talk to them or something.
No, I said we weren't talking to them, so we weren't in their conversation. Like, we were just talking, the three of us.
Oh, okay.
So I want to make that clear that they weren't under our influence. They weren't trying to influence us. I was trying to say we three got to talk without them in the room, which really...
Because they left?
No, but they were wherever they were.
Okay.
I don't know where they were.
And it wasn't that you hadn't been on earlier with any phone conversation or anything?
The only phone call that I shared with everybody, which is the truth, is when I was coming down from Utah. Remember, it was the Thanksgiving time. And remember I said I did the three-way call, and I called them to say, hey, let's say a prayer. I'm worried about them. Sulema got on the phone call. She didn't really seem like she understood what was going on. Because I asked Laura, I'm like, does she know what's going on? And she's like, oh, yeah, she lied. Anyway, so when I was listening to Sulema, I was like, I don't think she understands what's going on. I got that feeling. She's like, what is this about?
I just wanted to make sure that...
So that was the last conversation I had with her,
Okay.
was that conversation on the phone when I prayed, when I had a prayer I was worried about, they said the kids were
With
being
Lori.
kidnapped. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, actually, I was in the car with David, so he heard it because we had it on the speaker thing.
Right.
And then I went over to their house. And anyway, it was the last time I saw him. And he said, I 100% believe in it, Melanie.
Alex.
And so this is the thing, is I think because he 100% believed in it, he had to, because at this point he had probably killed the kids, is my guess. He probably did it. I don't know. I'm guessing. Maybe you guys are guessing too. But he 100% believed it. She didn't 100% believe it. And then when I called her, when I realized, oh, holy cow, I called her. I tried to talk to her. She was not there yet.
What do you mean by that? Was she just...
I said to her, I said, Sulema, and I don't remember the full conversation because I was in fire in my mind, like, holy cow, right? I said, there's something seriously wrong here. I said, the gut of my stomach says something's seriously wrong here. And she goes, that's just dark. I said, no, there's a difference between gut and dark. This is gut. And I said, do you have a testimony of Chad and Lori? Do you have a testimony of that? What is your witness? And she goes, well, I have one of Chad. When he gave me a blessing, shortly after meeting him, I had more visions after that. And she goes, I'll get my witness about Lori. And I said, well, I don't believe I don't know what I described, but I just described it and I didn't believe who they were. So I said, I'm going to the police. And I said, is Alex on? Can Alex hear me? And she goes, it's on speaker. I said, take it off speaker. Now here's the murderers down the street. Remember, they lived close to me. Remember, Sulema lived around the corner from me. And I'm thinking, I just got myself in a situation. They could come after me, right? Mm-hmm. But I had to do what I had to do. She was my friend. I wanted to warn her. So she texted me, didn't call me, texted me the next day, I got my witness. Which means to me, Lori's in. Lori's good. That's what it meant to me.
Did she tell you how she got her witness?
No, that's one-liner. And I said, I'm not talking to her anymore. Cut her off. I just knew that I couldn't talk to her anymore.
You remember what day that was? Do you still have that?
It's on my phone. Right for a confunnel, the bishop told me what happened. I was so surprised. So sad. This was after he died. So this was, I guess it was 2 days later, right? I'm so sorry. Words cannot express how I feel. I am extremely only surprised at your hypocrisy because of what you did. I didn't have to not only deal with my precious husband dying in my arms, but then when police were ransacking my house and traumatizing my entire family. You are not my friend. You are not to speak to me or anyone in my family ever again. I want you to pay the $2,000 you owe as soon as possible. Put it onto the map and I'll forget that I exist. So you can understand why I haven't talked to her.
So
Then I just told her.
is she just mad because you made the phone call to us? Is that why she's mad? And she thinks that God's pointed towards Alex's direction?
My guess. She knew I was going to the police.
That day was December.
One of my friends, Kelly, she saw her at the temple after it happened, and she was like, oh, Kelly, my husband died. Can you see him? He's here with me. And she's like, I don't see anything. I don't see spirits. So Emma, she's going on about how he was her husband. I mean, she was deceived so much. So sad. It was very sad.
Mm-hmm.
She did not know how evil he was. I never thought she was making this stuff up. I was like, but on the eternal thing, I think that God wanted me to be a witness for all this. So I said to her, hey, I just want to let you know that I'm divorcing Brendan or something like that. And she is like, I can't remember what she said, but I remember one time going to the temple, I said, this is just not going well. And she goes, no, I think you should go back to him. So she was actually, believe it or not, she encouraged me to go back with him. And then I got to a point where I was like, I got to do what I need to do. And actually, this is interesting. I told Brendan the whole story after I talked to all of you guys before it hit the media. I wanted him to know face to face. I said, I want to tell you what happened because he's the father of my children. He needs to know these things. And I told him about Chad and Lori and the whole thing, and he was just like, oh my gosh, he was shocked. He goes, well, probably a good thing you divorced me because they probably would have tried to come after me like they came after Brandon. And I said, who knows?
It's going to be a weird question.
Okay.
But it is what it is.
You can.
Do you ever feel like that with Chad, there was ever a point in time that Chad was wanting to bring you into any type of relationship?
I never felt that from him. Maybe he used me just to get his book sold there. But when he met Lori, it was a totally different energy than when I met him. So that's just letting you know. Of course, I never had any type of interest in him at all. Because you can tell why. So he was not somebody I'd be attracted to, you know what I'm saying? But plus I was married too.
Let's talk a little bit about the night that you were at the apartment in Rexburg, the night that you believe that JJ came up missing.
Yeah.
If I recall right, you guys were doing a cast, and Alex had already taken a podcast.
Yeah, I knew what you meant.
Okay, good. And Alex had taken JJ, gone to his place, and later we know that then he brought JJ back.
Yeah.
And because I don't have any paperwork right in front of me, he went upstairs with JJ.
Is that correct? Is that what I remember?
Did you remember, like, you mean like when we were doing the podcast and then he came in the door with him
Yeah,
sleeping?
yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I kind of went that way.
So he goes upstairs,
Mm-hmm.
and do you know where he went when he went upstairs?
Just kind of, oh, well, yeah, because he went into Lori's room because he wasn't in David's or
Okay.
my room. Those rooms are empty, so he had to have been in there.
And then you didn't see him again that night.
Who? JJ?
Alex
He left. No.
and Jay left. JJ still up there.
Yeah. And I never saw JJ either.
Right, but Alex left. You watched him leave.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we heard the door open and close, and we probably said like good night or something. You know. I mean, maybe we're podcasting. Who knows?
Do
We
you,
could have.
do you
I
recall
don't know.
seeing him walk out with JJ?
Not walk out. Mm-mm. No,
Okay.
just walk in.
Okay.
Just walk in.
That's what
And
I-
when he left the first time, we didn't see him take him. We just know he had him because she said that he had taken him.
Right.
I don't recall that. I just remember he wasn't there.
But the time he left,
Mm-hmm.
so he brings JJ in, and then he leaves again. He did not take JJ out of the room, or out of the apartment.
Mm-mm.
Okay. So you get done with your podcast, everybody goes,
The police here have recovered some texts that don't exactly jibe with the story, so they're trying to clarify it.
David, I recall David having his dream. He woke up.
Yeah, funky.
Did he come and get you and tell you?
No, I was actually laying beside him when it happened.
In which room?
In JJ's official room.
Okay. So he woke up and you were at the side of him?
Yeah.
And tell me about what happened from there.
His heart was beating. He was distressed. He said, I just had this really bad dream.
Here she talks about David Warwick having a really bad dream in the middle of that exact same night, which then makes her want to get in touch with Lori and Chad for some kind of a blessing. Honestly, folks, at this point, I don't believe any of these people.
So that's what happened. So then I think, oh my gosh, maybe some evil spirit, because, they were always talking about it. So I text Lori and I text Chad. I'm like, I don't remember what I said. Probably, are you awake or something's wrong with Chad. David, I don't remember what I said. I just remember trying to get to them. So I said, I'm going to go get Lori, see if she can help out. The door was locked. And so I was like, I don't know. She's not, I don't know if I should try to wake her up or I just decided just to come back and see David after that.
so you tried the door handle. It was locked.
It was locked.
Did you knock on it?
Maybe. I probably did, but there was no
That's
answer.
This would have been around the time that JJ was murdered.
And I think I tried calling her too and texting her. And I think Chad, I tried calling him. I thought maybe he could help out. Neither one of them responded to me, as you probably could tell in the text. You probably saw that. Nobody responded to me. So I just went back to bed. And then we woke up next morning and she was happy chappy.
How was David?
He was better. He felt better. He was like, that was a bad dream. And then we would tell them like, hey, he had a bad dream last night. And she's like, oh, that was Julie Rowe. He attacked her.
Julie Rose, their default boogeyman.
From a distance.
Chad said Julie Rowe attacked David?
Well, Lori probably said it, but she always went through him. So when I say it's kind of they're both. They who knows? They both. And then I don't even know what I believe anymore. What she says that he says, because she's such a liar now. At this point, I'm like.
Same, ma'am. Same.
And it's because because right before earlier that day, we went to that lot where that land was going to be for sale. And so we were talking to a friend of Julie Rose. His name was Keith Levitt. And Keith Levitt was there with his wife Suzanne, and then the realtor was there. And and Alex was there, but Lori wasn't there. David thought she was there. I said, no, she went home after that. He goes, I forgot that. Anyway, and so anyway, because we saw her, we thought, oh, she's going to tell Julie Rowe. Keith is going to tell Julie Rowe that we were there because he saw us, because they're really tight. Keith and Julie are super tight.
If this case ever goes to trial, you have got to feel for these jurors.
That night on the 22nd,
Yeah.
try to remember as best you can, okay? So, it's a Sunday,
Yeah.
right? Do you guys go to dinner, or do you guys make dinner on Sunday night?
Well, we would make it because we don't go to eat on dinner now, so we would have made it
Okay,
at home.
so everybody's at home.
Mhm.
Does Lori leave anywhere with JJ?
I don't have any memory of her leaving.
So you sent a text, correction, Lori sent a text to you around 8:30 that evening saying that something to the effect of, hey, I'll be there shortly, JJ woke up, she's getting him back to bed.
Mm.
Do you know where she was at or where you were at when she sent that text?
So they're all supposed to be in the same house together, and the police have a text that Lori sends Mel, be there shortly, JJ woke up and I'm getting him back to bed. Explain it.
Maybe at Alex's house. I mean, that's the only, it's
Is
the only
there-
place that she could
Do
be.
you have that conversation with her on your phone right now?
No, I think I deleted everything. I was freaked out when it happened, sorry. I wish I would have kept it on.
Sorry.
So, and I can get
So
that.
say it again. So who's speaking? Say it
So
again.
Lori
She texts me and says,
says something to the effect of, I'll be there
I'll
shortly,
be there shortly.
JJ woke up and I'm trying to get him back to sleep.
And that was at night.
It was about 8:30 at night.
Well, okay, because we didn't do the podcast yet.
Okay.
We started the podcast like late because I remember thinking, man, I can't stay up this late. I'm an early bird. Like, come on. We started late, and she's an early bird too. So it must have been, my guess is that it must have been at Alex's house getting him to sleep over there. I'm guessing. So I'm just going to make some guesses. That's that. Because she would never have gone to Chad's house because Tammy was there, right? So where else in the world would she go? I
Right,
have no
but
idea.
And that's why I'm asking if you remember her, if you remember being alone in her apartment with her not there? Because if she's at Alex's, you're alone in her apartment.
I could have been upstairs or something. Maybe I was talking to David, who knows?
So, and that's why I'm asking if
Yeah.
you remember her leaving and JJ not being there around that time.
So either Lori was at Alex's or it's a fake text.
Probably, because that's when he was no longer there when we did the podcast. And so somehow, I think I was upstairs. That's what I feel. I just don't remember that detail because I had any reason not to remember that, you know. I didn't know anything was going on, so I didn't have a way of associating it with anything. I just knew I was going to do a podcast, and that was it.
The defense is going to have a field day with these kind of recovered texts and her previous testimony.
And that night when David was having his dream and you send the text to Chad, and understand, I'm not casting any judgment here,
Yeah, that's okay.
but were you and David sleeping in the same room? Or
That
did you hear?
that night we were. I think so. Yeah.
Okay, so and which room, if you're walking down the hall, which room were you in, the right or the left?
She may have said under oath that she and David Warwick did not sleep in the same bed that weekend. If that is the case, it would be something to use to impeach her credibility as a witness.
Well, he was assigned that room. And then the first night, David wasn't there for a few nights, so I was in Tylee's room. So that was the room that I stayed in. And then he stayed, so yeah, left room, and it had the mattress on the floor.
Okay, so
That
you
one.
guys, that night, you guys were in the left bedroom.
Yes. Yeah.
And the nights prior to that, you were in the right bedroom.
Yeah, I was a couple, I don't know how many nights. I know at least I was like 1 or 2 nights in Tylee's room. I don't know.
It'd been the first night that he got there.
Which night was that, do you remember?
I don't, but you guys shared
Saturday.
the same room the first night he showed up at the apartment.
Probably.
Because he was.
I was there like a day or 2 before he was.
Right.
Because didn't I get on a Wednesday? I think a Wednesday and Thursday. So I would have been in the room Wednesday and Thursday in Tylee's room. So anyway, I don't remember other than like something, I don't know what I said on the text. Probably something like, something's wrong with David, he had a dream, something, I don't know what I said, but something to the fact that something's wrong with him.
And so after you went and knocked on Lori's door,
I don't know if, I know I did this.
tried the handle.
My guess is I probably knocked, but I just decided to come back. I was like, well.
I just want to note the demeanor change between the earlier part of the video and this part. Different.
So what was your intent in going in there?
To see if she could come and help with a blessing. Like if she had some, it's like, hey, David Strong, can you, do a blessing? Help with that, because that's what she was into. So that was my intent.
Okay.
Because I thought maybe she would know what was going on, because she seemed to have all these, experiences with the other side of the veil and Jesus all the time. Like, I thought, well, man, maybe they can help out.
Note they're not exactly showing her the text, and they can see how many calls were made that night. So they're going to bring this up.
Again, we're asking these questions because, it may be something that the defense wants to hit on.
Sure.
I mean, you never know what
Right.
they're going to want to talk to.
Well, and I could see that angle. Just like, well, why were you contacting them in the middle of the night? Well, just weird experience. I don't know what else to say.
So make a note. In the middle of the night, over a bad dream, they tried to contact both Chad and Lori, allegedly.
Yeah.
So that morning, when David talked to Lori, did he express any concerns to you about JJ's whereabouts?
Did he express any concerns to
David.
me?
Mhm.
I don't recall him expressing concerns.
On the drive home, did you guys talk or text Lori or Chad?
No, I mean, what would we have said about JJ? Just, I know that he questioned her, like, where is JJ? Let me see if he has a zombie in him. And he didn't believe it. I mean, I don't remember.
So make a note here. They wake up in the morning, JJ's not there, and they don't discuss it amongst themselves, and they don't discuss it on the ride home, according to Melanie.
And that's why I asked, because if he was concerned, right?
Oh,
JJ has
right,
a
like he
zombie
was,
in him.
yeah.
It would be, I would think that maybe you guys would maybe discuss that, if you could remember discussion on the way home, because it was kind of a
Yeah.
long drive, right? And then during that drive, there was 3 or 4 phone calls that you made to Lori.
Okay.
So did you catch that? On the drive away, they made 3 to 4 phone calls back to Lori.
Jogging my memory. Holy cow.
I know it's a lot to remember.
Well, you could have asked this like a long time ago. That would help.
I
Just,
Well,
and I don't even know if I would have remembered, because it wasn't significant enough for me to remember.
This will come down to her phoning habits with Lori. If out of habit she didn't typically call Lori 3 to 4 times in the morning, the defense is going to make hash of this.
How do you remember how she was? Her tone, her demeanor on the phone with you? Was she?
I don't even remember the conversation. That's the hard part. I don't even remember talking to her.
is it normal for you to call her 3 or 4 times in a day?
That's not unusual. That's not unusual. There were periods of time where she talked to me more, and then she'd move, and she'd be maybe focused on Melanie. So if she was focused on somebody else, she wouldn't. But I was with David, so, I didn't have as much when I was with David. So it went through, gaps here and there where I did and didn't. In the beginning, yeah. And then when she moved and stuff, it started getting a lot less. I don't remember the conversation. I mean, yeah, if they bring them up, they're gonna. Wherever they ask me in court, happy to talk about it, but I don't remember them.
Prior to those podcasts, had Chet been over there?
Yeah.
You know what time he left? We probably talked about it, but I'm just...
So it was, I think we figured out, if all my remembering, it seemed like he was there on a Sunday, right? And then he was there even before. I mean, I know, okay, yes, it was, because David and him saw each other, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, so he definitely was there on a Sunday, or we interacted with him on a Sunday. Was he at the house on Sunday? Anyway, he was at one point, I remember he was in the kitchen at one point, and I remember David was there, so I just remember they were both in the house at the same time. Do I remember exactly when it was? No. But he always seemed to like to go home because of his wife, so he didn't want to upset her. I had that feeling, something like that. So he probably didn't stay too late. And he was not there when we did the podcast. He was gone already.
Look at her demeanor here. Note it.
I bet you got a lot more information because of the text, so you guys know a little bit more about their whereabouts. They were always texting each other. I know you're trying to help
So the
find
night of
a
the
way
22nd.
to pin them on a...
Yeah.
I know. I
So-
wish I could just remember more.
So the 22nd would have been a Sunday.
22nd Sunday, yeah.
Okay, and that's the night of the podcast. And that's the night that David got there?
No, he got there, I think the day
Or
before.
was it on a Saturday? Okay,
It was either Friday night or Saturday night.
But do you recall Chad being at the house on the 22nd? That Sunday?
I'm gonna say there's a high chance he was. Right this moment, I have to put pieces together to figure it out. The days blend to me. When you're there 5 days and you're trying to figure out which day, that's hard for me.
The morning of the 23rd, when Lori's up and about in the kitchen, when you guys get ready to go, does she say anything about Chad?
I don't know. I didn't see him there. I don't remember seeing him there. I don't remember.
That she's talked to him that morning or anything? Okay.
I don't know. David remembers this part the best because he had a conversation with her. And he remembered it because we were leaving, and you talked about now I remember that whole conversation to whatever I was listening. I know he was over here, and I felt like I was in the living room for some reason, but I couldn't remember. I was like, oh, was it that day or that? I was kind of like, was that Saturday or was it Sunday or what day did she say that? And so he did remember that it was that day, which I'm grateful that he remembered it was that day.
Sure.
But yeah, I remember her telling me about how, and I remember she was doing my hair.
With Sunday?
Yeah, she did my hair. She cut my hair in the bathroom downstairs. And she even colored it. She couldn't do upstairs, but it was enough room, so went downstairs. There was pizza boxes or something, and JJ was trying to cut them, something.
Melanie, let me ask you this. With multiple probations,
Yeah.
were you 100% believer in that?
Probably sounded like I was, but there was always that question mark. Everything's a question mark for sure, but did I sound like I believed in it? Yeah, I tried to. I tried believing it at times. She'd tell me stuff like, no. And then sometimes I was like, I don't like this because I'm not,
Well,
I haven't lived very many lives.
What was your spiritual name that she would use for you?
Phoebe.
And then how were you related to her? How were you related to Lori?
So she was Joseph Smith, but I forgot his name now, but one of his descendants, right? One of his great-great-great-great-grandfathers, so he was his great Joseph Smith. Anyway, her name was Mary Smith, and I was the oldest of all her kids, and I was Phoebe, and then the last one was Christina. She had like 10.
With the same father?
Yeah, so she only had one husband in that one, according to her. Now, I don't believe that now, just for the record.
Right.
I do not believe any of this stuff.
So Lori was your mom?
That's right.
Because there's times you call her mom in some
Yeah,
text
yeah,
messages.
yeah.
Um,
Did I 100% believe in it? Say like, I buried in the 90s at times,
Well,
But it sounded like I did, because I referred to it as if I did.
And that's the thing we want to address is,
Yeah.
it's probably going to be something the defense hits on, right?
Sure.
I mean, based on all this stuff,
Yeah.
reading the text messages and the conversations,
Yeah.
it looks like you were probably closest to Lori more than anybody in that group, even probably more than Zulema.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, be prepared. That's probably something that they're getting hit on. And there are some text messages where you call her mom, and you talk about different things.
Yeah.
Charles being shorter because he's possessed.
Yeah.
Different things like
absolutely.
that it does make it look like.
I
And
believed it.
I can believe that you believed it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're manipulative.
Uh-huh.
And there's things that they said and people bought into.
Yeah.
We just want to get ahead of all that stuff
You want to
before it
prepare
comes
me.
out in court, right?
And that's my testimony's always going to be like it's going to sound like it. If he said it's going to sound like it, according to text, I believed it. And yes, I did believe it to a certain level. But can you ever believe in something 100% that's not true? Well, I don't think any of us can. But that's my thing is, you believe it enough to sound like you believe in it.
So everybody, I'm just going to leave this here. You can draw your own conclusions by watching this video, and you can watch the full video if you have the stomach for it. It's up on Fox 10 Phoenix. So if you like this video, please hit the like button. Please ring that subscribe bell, and please feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below. And without further ado, have an excellent day. Bye.